Hello, everybody. Welcome to the Canadian Shield. My name is Sterling. I'm your host. In this episode, we're going to be covering a few stories. Some of them are going to be discussing what appears to be the failure of the mass transportation to be implemented in many of our large cities, and how the provincial government is interfering and causing a problem where the Liberal government promised everything would flow smoothly. It's almost like the government doesn't have a clue what it is doing. In Ottawa, for example, they've doubled the amount of times between waits. So what used to be 5 minutes is now going to be 10. How long until it's 20? I don't know. In Calgary, they were going to put in a 13-stop LRT. They've now gone over budget by $1 billion, and they've cut the amount of stops in half down to 7. In Quebec, they have decided to ban all non-registered scooters. So no more bikes that are not officially licensed and put in control of the provincial government, Mark Miller and the federal government is saying now that they're not going to give residential status to people that have come to this country illegally and are without documentation, which could be upwards to 600,000 people. And in Toronto, a fella who lit a Jewish school on fire has been arrested, and they're calling it hate-motivated mischief, which I'm not even sure how that works. It's either hate or it's mischief. It cannot be both. Before we get into all of that, I would encourage you all to like, comment, subscribe, hit the notification bell, share this channel with all of your socials. Okay, we're going to start in Calgary, where they have decided to downsize their LRT because it's already gone $1 billion over budget. The Green Line is going to have fewer stops, cost more money, and it has an LRT project that runs on hope. Downsize route nearly below minimum viable size, the councillor admits, even though they say let's go ahead with it anyway. And what choice did they have? They've already taken a lot of handouts from the government. They did it on a shoestring, and now they have nowhere to go. But the thing is that all of the housing announcement that the federal government have been making since all summer, all of that money is predicated on the city rezoning so that people don't have to have a parking space. When they build this high-density housing, it'll make it just look like some sort of favela out of the Central America. Without a parking space, how is the person supposed to get to their job, supposed to get to daycare, supposed to pick up the kid after school? Walking, because there's no mass transit. Without mass transit and without a parking space, you're basically what? What are you? I mean, you're one of those countries where you see the person balancing stuff on their head as they walk. I don't know how the federal government and the far left expect us to go backwards 1,000 years, or 150 at least, and not be upset about it. That's kind of weird in my mind. But Calgary, one of the most far left mayors in all of the country, has decided to cut the route in half, and it's already $1 billion over budget. It's going to be absurd. Sticking with LRT, we'll go over to Canada's capital city of Ottawa, where they have announced less services for the LRT. In a memo to city councillors on Friday, OC Transpo, which is the name of the transportation in Ottawa, the public transportation, says that starting on August 26th, trains on the East-West Confederation line will run every 10 minutes between 6:30 p.m. and 9:30 p.m. on the weekdays. On Monday, OC Transport announced that services will be reduced to every 10 minutes on the weekdays between 9 a.m. and 3 p.m. Currently, trains are running roughly every 5 to 6 minutes during those periods. So what that means is they have decided between 9 and 3, when everybody might already be at work, they're given less service. They're going to put less trains on the line. There'll be less people working. And after 6:30, there'll be less people working because there'll be less trains running on the tracks. The only time that they're planning on keeping it the same is in the morning rush hour and at the after work rush hour, probably for students right through until people getting off work. I thought that mass transit was the solution, according to Trudeau and the Liberal government. Stephen Guilbeault has been running all over the world trying to convince me that the solution to Canada, to the world's problems, as a matter of fact, is to put everybody on rollerblades and on electric trains. That's what I was understanding. Now, how is it that the capital city has elected to put less work into, less effort, less services into the mass transportation, while all the while demanding that the rest of us go green? Should we not have a unified approach? Should we not, as a country, be talking about doing this in one motion? I mean, it just seems to me that it's a bit bizarre. We would be doing all of this bending over backwards, all of this carbon tax cost, only to turn around and have the mass transportation in two cities in different parts of the country both scale back. All the while, Stephen Guilbeault and all the other ministers are running around trying to convince us that green is the way. We're going to save the planet. We're saving billions of people with all of the efforts that we're putting in. I just think that it's time we admit that the vision that they have is something that comes out of a storybook, but might not be based in reality. Now, I'll go and talk about how Ottawa has no plans to give undocumented workers residential status, says Mark Miller. Still looking at giving status to healthcare and construction workers. Now, I don't know why we would need to give status to construction workers. There are enough people in this country that don't have jobs, and to say that we're going to give status to construction workers for 500,000 people, or however many of the 600,000 that they guesstimate are in the country. And of course, it's a government estimation, right? So if they say 600,000, it's probably closer to 1 million. They're undocumented. We will never know. But they get here and they somehow get jobs. But the thing that is important is a lot of them take mass public transportation. So how can they be denying that there's be more transportation in all of these big cities? How can they be saying that we're going to be putting high density in these cities, all the while cutting down the services of the mass transit? Something there is not working. Something there is not right. As for trying to convince me that Mark Miller has a single solitary clue of what he's doing, that he in any way, shape, or form thinks for himself, I don't believe that. I think that he simply says that's why his story changes every minute of the day, because he just gets new marching orders from whoever is pulling his string, and he runs out to the cameras and he says that. The thing that bothers me is that if you want people to come here and they want to work in hospitals and they want to come with technical trades and all of that kind of stuff, how come they're undocumented in the first place? Why are those people who must have gotten an education somewhere else not followed the rules? How come they're sneaking across the country? How come they're sneaking across the border? Why would they not just stay somewhere else and exercise their skill set? Which makes me wonder if this isn't just a red herring designed to make you not feel like those guys are taking all the low-level jobs away from teenage boys who otherwise are sitting at home trying to figure out what they're going to do with their lives. It's just my opinion. You can let me know what your opinion is down in the comments. So there was another firebombing at a Jewish elementary school over the last couple of days, and they say the man charged with arson after fire outside a Jewish school. They caught him on camera. They knew that he was living around there. They claim he was sleeping in there, but I don't know why he would burn where his own bed was. Who knows why he put a fire torch to the school? What I do know is that he's been charged with arson and not a hate crime, right? What I want to understand is how come he's not being charged with a hate crime? How come that because they're Jewish, they're not being treated with the same protection as, say, somebody in the Rainbow Mafia? Somebody who's wearing, if this individual was to burn down an LGBT whatever center, would they not be called a hate crime? Would they, even though let's just say the circumstances were exactly the same and the building just was flying a rainbow flag and it was a drop-in center for people who are in the Rainbow Mafia, do you think for 1 second that they would not be calling it a hate crime? I, for one, want everybody to appreciate that this two-tiered system is not going to work for me. It's not going to be anything that's called justice. You either treat everybody the same, including criminals, or you stop trying to tell me that it's a big deal. Pick. You can't have it both ways. That is no way at all to set an example for anyone around you. Again, though, I would appreciate it if you would leave me your opinion down in the comments. As always, I've saved the best for last. I couldn't believe it when I read it myself. Quebec has banned all scooters and mopeds that don't meet quote-unquote safety standards. Like somehow they're being sold and they haven't already met rigorous safety standards when they were given the permission to sell them. Velo Quebec supports Quebec's action but calls for further e-bike regulations. Now, for those of you that don't speak French, Velo means bicycle in French. So what they're saying is that the electronic bikes that are not approved by the government. Now, Quebec loves regulations. They love regulations because then they can take money from you. Then they can say to you, well, if you have an e-bike that we've approved, a moped, we need you to put a license plate on it, which means that you have to give us $100 every year. Then we need to know that you've gotten through the moped safety licensing, and that won't be good enough for a motorcycle. but it will be good enough for the e-bike that we have a pre-approved to allow to be for sale in the city. And don't worry about it because it's an exclusive monopoly. The cost of those ones has just quadrupled. Meanwhile, if you're a 16-year-old kid just trying to get around on an e-scooter and you bought one for $3,000-4,000 that it was completely legal and bought it in a store, well, you're on your own. Not only you're not allowed to use it, you can't get your money back for it, and you basically have to start taking the bus to get to work. If it used to take you a half an hour and taking the public transit is going to take you 2 hours, nobody cares. The government doesn't care because the government has decided that electronic transportation has to be regulated. The electronic transportation is not safe unless they have agreed to it being safe, which means that they're getting in bed with one or two manufacturers and everybody else, Costco, Walmart, wherever you buy your electronic scooter, is SOL. This is a prime example of government corruption. This is a prime example of government getting in bed with big business, and everybody else has to suffer because we made the mistake of electing these individuals who don't have a scruple in their body, who are not worried about you at all. They all think that they are smarter than you. They think that they know better. Whether it be Stephen Guilbeault, whether it be the Premier of Quebec, whether it be the Mayor of Montreal, doesn't matter. Somebody in there decided that they were going to take this where they've already pushed everybody into having electronic scooters, electronic bikes, where they're going to be pushing gas prices and telling you that you're not allowed to have carbon footprint, and then you can't use your scooter either because anything over 30 kilometers an hour is illegal. Anything that was made after 1971 is illegal. I mean, some of the conditions are ridiculous. They are equipped with a footrest or a platform for the driver's feet. What does that even mean? Name me one thing that a person operates. The bus has a platform for feet. The car that you operate, whether it be a motorcycle, has a platform. Doesn't matter if it's a Harley Davidson or if it's a Vespa. They all got a place to put your... They put your feet? What do you mean? What does that even mean? That's ridiculous. That's the kind of absurdity that you're talking about, right? They just no idea what they're doing. They just know one thing. They know that if they can stop people from doing it, that they can make money off of the people. That's all they care about. They just want to know that they can stop people from just having a free-for-all and make sure that everybody has to register their vehicle with them because they love to have that power, that control. That's the kind of people that gravitate toward these jobs. And as a country, we have to start saying, look, enough is enough is enough. Pick a position and let's stick to it. They are equipped with a set of tires and wheels that resemble those of a motorcycle or a moped. Again, what does that even mean? What in all that is holy can you grasp from that? Is somebody outside right now deciding whether or not his tires are round? What does it mean? It looks like that from a motorcycle or a moped. They are equipped with a body that partially or completely covers their frame or some of the components and are not equipped with an adjustable height saddle. Come on. Are you kidding me? Either it's got some body over the motor or it got a little bit over the motor and you can't raise the seat up and down and and it's got a place for you to put your feet. You're not allowed to operate it. Nope. It's not safe, don't you know? Because you got a place to put your feet and because all of the moving parts are covered by the body, it's not safe. The equipment has an engine that allows them to reach a speed of more than 32 kilometers an hour or has a nominal power gear of more than 500 watts. I got to tell you straight. I ride a bicycle and I routinely get my bicycle over 30 kilometers an hour while I'm still sitting down. Routinely. I mean, it happens all the time. So I don't know why they would pick 32 kilometers an hour. I think that it's a school zone speed, right? And maybe that's kind of where they put their mindset because then kids at school were bringing in 100 of them, right? All I know is that it's ridiculous. All I know is that there's no way in the world that this is working in conjunction with the green vision of a future, blah, blah, blah. And I know that what I see here is people exploiting a situation while the population that they claim to want to protect, while the population that they claim to represent is living a less caliber, a lower standard as a result of their decisions. How can you tell me that that's anything other than a step backwards? Now, if you say to me, well, you know what, they're quiet on bike paths, okay, but you're not banning them from bike paths. You're banning them from the whole province. You're not allowing people to operate them in any way, shape, or form. You're not letting people sell them. There's ways to get around the bike path stuff. You can put in a path on the road and let them drive there, but of course you can't do that in Montreal. So they can't go on the road, they can't go on the sidewalk, they can't go on the bike path. Better to just ban them all, and then we'll give them ones that they can't operate until they're 18 years old after having 2 years of licensing and a buttload of money that they've given to the provincial government. It's ridiculous. Just absurd. And let's remember, this is where Justin Trudeau, Stephen Guilbeault, these are the people that elected them. They both have their ridings in Montreal. All right, I'm going to wrap here. I want to thank you for listening. I'll talk to you next time.